interruption. We were just introducing ourselves. As I said, I'm Dr. Nadkarni, child psychiatrist. And I'm Anupama. I work as a play therapist. We have got a center called Mind Brain Solutions in Pune. And we have plenty of experience working with children with emotional and behavioral problems. Today we are going to talk about mental health in children. As you know, mental health is important for everyone. WHO, which is the World Health Organization, actually says it is not enough to have only good physical health. Okay, so there are other aspects of health like the spiritual health, psychological health, emotional health, and all these aspects are important. Why do you think they are important, and especially for a child? Basically, even children have minds. Okay, just like adults, children have minds, and not only those minds, but those minds are actually innocent, immature. So anything can affect them very quickly, such as any life event. You can imagine, say, a child actually changing school, home, a teacher, etc. Basically, what happens with them is that those life events continue to have impact on the child. And if it is not taken care of properly and in time, it can affect the child for his or her life. Okay? There are certain aspects of children's mental health that can be actually prevented, and we are going to have a look at it. And Anupama is also going to talk about play therapy and how to play with your child to do actually better in terms of communicating with your child. But let's first start talking about mental health in children. So, what do you think are the events that can affect a child? Basically, these events can be as small. We call them stressors, but they can be as small as changing a school, home, a friend who's not talking, or a loss, or a death of a pet also, right? And these events can... Now, if the child's psychological health is not addressed properly in time, it can mean that they can continue into adulthood. And there are studies actually showing that children with a lot of anxiety or emotional problems, sometimes even depression, can continue to remain anxious or depressed even as adults. And then in between, the adolescence, that is a very tricky phase for children. The transition is quite difficult for a child. And if the child is already anxious or depressed because of any cause, then it can manifest much, much more. Okay? So it's trying to reconnect. Secondly, the impact of the mental health problem on the children can be in terms of academics. So you may have falling grades, the child is not doing well at school, and we are pushing the child to study better and thinking that the child is not doing well because of, the child doesn't want to study or not interested in study. But the main reason can be something happening at home or school, and then the child is not functioning properly because anxiety or depression in the child. Okay. The second impact can be on the child's self-esteem, because the child is continuing to grow with all these insecurities and deficiencies and psychological problems, and it may happen that the child starts to believe that something is wrong with me, and especially if the friends are not very supportive, or if the family is not supportive, or if they don't actually know that the child is going through this problem, it may happen that it may have a long-term impact on the child's self-esteem. It can also have a lot of impact on the child's, other areas of functioning, such as sports, relationships, friendships, and all that. So considering all this, I think mental health becomes very important to address. What about family life? How do you think a child's problems can affect, the family life of people? It can definitely affect, isn't it? Because you imagine a child, okay, who's coming with lots of behavioral problems, hyperactivity and all that. Or it may be that the child is not doing well in academics. The main problem is something else. It's a psychological problem. But then the families, or especially the parents, are fighting between each other. ये आपकी गलती है, ये तुम्हारी गलती है, ये ऐसे हो सकता है. So then that kind of friction between the parents can affect the child even more. And then the child really starts blaming themselves. So it's considering all this, it's again important to actually identify the mental health problem when it is early enough and then to actually treat it. Okay. So what are the signs of these mental health problems? We are all talking about, problems, but how does it exactly manifest in a child? First of all, let's see. It can actually come up with behavior problems, a child with hyperactivity or impaired concentration, or say, not mixing well with other children, or is aggressive, defiant, not listening to parents' instructions, not listening to teachers' instructions. All these we think is a child becoming stubborn. Okay. Now there is a specific term called as oppositional defiant disorder, which means actually the child is not obeying and is argumentative. Now this disorder is not something that has come up only because the child was born like that. Okay, the other sibling may be quite okay, but this child who is showing what we call as ODD is not born like that. It is because of the environment and the child having a problem that the disorder is existing. So it's important to identify this because help is available. Okay, so that was about mainly behavioral problems. That is one way of how mental health problems can present. The second way it can present is in terms of academics. Okay, so falling grades, especially the child who was doing well, or say a child who was not doing well from the beginning, can also have what we call as specific learning disorders, and the child is not able to read or write properly. So what's happening over here is that the child is being made to struggle, or perform when he cannot. So it happens that the child is actually having a problem again, and we are not identifying it properly. Okay? The third way it can present, especially in adolescence, is in terms of addictions. We are all familiar with the word addiction. What is addiction? It is dependence on something. It doesn't have to be a dependence only on, say, drugs. Drug addiction can be the extreme. But before that, there are many other smaller and day-to-day addictions that we are not even aware of. And especially with children. What about mobile addiction? How many children are actually addicted to smartphone? How many children are addicted to social media? Why do you think that happens? Right? It happens because of the lack of security in children. Okay? Low self-esteem also. So children want to be on social media, they want to be accepted by others. This urge to be accepted also comes about because the child is not comfortable or secure with himself or herself. Okay? So the acceptance is not there and the child feels actually rejected by the family. Parents are not giving enough time. So what happens? The child starts feeling nobody cares for me, nobody loves me. So what is he going to do? He has to find a substitute. So where does the substitute come from? The substitute actually comes from something else. Okay? So that warmth, exactly. So that warmth actually comes from a gadget. Right? So what is a gadget? It's a mobile, it's a laptop, it can be a video game. Okay? And these gadgets are actually doing what the child wants. They don't have to compromise. They don't have to actually share anything with anyone. The gadgets are always there to basically to take their commands. Okay, so the child loves them. They don't have to do anything extra, and the gadgets are always there to help them out. So this is how the smartphone addiction also starts. So we have seen continuously that actually in families where good time is actually spent between parents and children, or they have family time, it's very difficult for a child to get addicted to these things. Then comes in adolescence, especially addiction to alcohol, smoking. It's right that children always want to try out. There is a lot of peer pressure. And when these things happen, we straight away blame the friends of the child. We say it's because of the peer pressure that my child is drinking, smoking, doing all these things, is becoming argumentative, defiant. But most of the times, the base of the relationship, especially between the parent and child, has not been established. And then the parents complain, "Abhi meri baat manta nahi, abhi meri sunta nahi." Okay, so we have to work towards prevention of these mental health problems also. If addiction is a problem, we can prevent it. It is not difficult to prevent it, despite all the pressure, believe me. But what is important is that we also have to do something about it. Okay, not just complain about it. Okay, and then comes the relationships, because for a child, friendships are very important. So any mental health problem is also going to be shown in terms of poor relationships and poor friendships. Okay? So a child who is not able to make friends, we cannot say कि अगर दूसरा कोई तेरे साथ खेलता नहीं है तो मैं खेलती हूँ. Yeah, sometimes a parent is a substitute, or go play with your smartphone, or go play with your actual video game. No, that is not the right answer. And why is it not the right answer? Because human beings are social animals. All right? We are. So we have to actually understand our basic core. We need people, and if we don't have the people skills, then obviously we are not successful enough. No matter, even if your child is actually highly successful in academics or even finances later on, if he doesn't know how to connect to people, there is a term called as emotional quotient. Okay? And this EQ, although it's a new concept, it is already being established as the more fundamental concept compared to intelligent quotient. The IQ may be great, but if the EQ is not, your child is not going to be that successful. It is sad to say that. Okay? So, and who can actually develop a child's EQ? Again, is a family, isn't it? Because the family creates the opportunities for a child to make friends. The family creates a secure base for a child to feel confident in themselves that they can go and mix with others. And if there are fights within other children and all that, and if the parents' response is that kuch nahi hota hai, and you don't have to make friends, or if the friends are not playing with you, actually disregard them, that is not the correct answer. The child has to have the right emotional and social skills. So a lack of social emotional skills will also come across as actually a problem. Okay, and there are actually disorders in which the children may have deficiencies in social skills, but they can also be addressed. Okay, so we have talked about maybe the presentations of these problems, and we have seen also why it is important to address this matter. So how do we actually prevent this? How do you think? First, it is the parents, right? Yeah. So what do parents have to do? Yeah. So the parents, first of all, have to actually learn how to do the parenting. Yeah. Because parenting is so important. It is a full-time job, 24/7 job. Believe me, it's a thankless job. I know that. Yeah. But at the same time, it is the most beautiful and productive job on this planet. Okay? If you have listened to even the CEOs of mega companies, yesterday I was listening to Indra Nooyi, who is the CEO and president of PepsiCo, and she was telling that her mother made it a point that despite actually ascended this ladder of her success to this level, she was still a mother, and she was still actually a wife and a family figure. So we cannot forget that. No matter what we are, anywhere else, first we are parents. And for especially a young child, you are everyone. You are the role model, you are like God. Okay? Whatever you say, actually, the child will accept. And whatever you treat the child as, the child is going to imbibe. Okay? So the parenting style is extremely important. Now, there are three kinds of parenting styles. They are called authoritarian, permissive, and then authoritative. Okay? The authoritarian is very easy. You can think about somebody like Hitler, all right? Somebody who's continuously giving orders, there is no warmth, affection, and every time you have to obey, just obey, obey, obey. And what happens? This is classically seen in very traditional Orthodox families. Children tend to rebel. Okay? Either they rebel or they tend to get depressed because अंदर से घुटन होती है, घुटन होते. Okay? That means they are getting suffocated inside. They cannot express their emotions very well. So obviously that is not good, because if your boss was treating like that, treating you like that in the office, how would you feel? So imagine that kind of, a parenting style that is authoritarian. The second comes the other extreme, which is very permissive. Okay, permissive means the child can indulge in almost everything. Whatever the child actually asks, that it is being given. Do you think that is right? No. Why? Because the child doesn't learn to share, compromise. जो भी मेरे मन में आता है हो जाता है. I cannot wait. So they become impatient. They become immature also. they don't know how to deal with life in the real sense. Okay? So then we come to the third style, which is middle of the two, where parents are parents, but they also can come down to the child's level and they try to understand the child. Okay? So if you look at the, you have to learn to shift. You are in the parent position and then you can also be in the child position. If you are in the parent position, then you can actually tell the child what to do when it is necessary. But don't tell the child always. Let them also start making decisions based on their maturity level. Okay? Then the communication, which is very important. And Anupama is going to actually talk about play, about how to communicate with a child properly using the play method. Okay? But communication has to be open, clear, and communication, most importantly, has to be there. There are lots of families when even the communication itself is not there. So, the problems start. The mother thinks about something, the father is thinking about something, the child is thinking about something, and there is no communication going on. The child is not explained properly why certain decisions are being made at home. Or most of the parents think that what will the child understand? The children can understand, except that they have to be given the information in the dose that they can understand, depending on their maturity level. Okay? Then the time spent with the child. Obviously, it is very important because the child is going to think that my mother spends some time with me, and depending on the time spent, how close or how I'm wanted by that parent. So the parent may be actually doing so many things outside of the home, but if she is not doing, especially a working mother, if she is not sitting with the child, talking to the child, then the child may interpret it as what? The mother is rejecting me. Right? So just earning for the child is not enough. Definitely it is not good. And showing that physical affection, especially for a younger child, hugs, actually touching the shoulder, sitting with the child close enough, proximity, very important. So that's about your parenting. Okay? Then comes the extended family and the grandparents. These also play a big role. Now we are moving into the trend of nuclear families, which is all right. You don't have to go back to joint families. But what is important, at least keep contact with the extended family. Let the child actually grow up with cousins, grandparents. They need to have these family connections. Why? Because parents are sometimes not enough. Many times they are not enough, especially if the parents are young, they are stressed, they are harassed by something else. Then these act as stress buffers for the child. So the children who grow up with grandparents or with extended family rather than maid servants actually do a lot better in terms of their confidence and self-esteem also. Then comes school. Okay? So how will you prevent a mental health problem from the school's perspective? First of all, academic pressure. So choose a school that is right for your child, depending on the board, depending on the medium of instruction, because you should not push the child to achieve something. Okay? Just because somebody else is doing something doesn't mean that your child also will be capable or also should be actually pushed in that direction. So choose a school wisely. A school environment can be as damaging, if not more damaging, than the family environment. It's no good to say we are all fine in the family, we are doing everything for our child in the family, but the school is a wrong school for the child. So the friends, the classmates in the school are also going to affect your child very much. Then comes the teachers, because teachers also play a very crucial role in the child's life. How do teachers play a crucial role? They are like second parents when your child goes to school, right? They are like authority figures. So what the teacher says also, a teacher repeatedly says, you are not good in maths, you are a moron, you are dumb. So that kind of teacher actually can damage your child's self-esteem considerably. Okay? So have a good rapport with the teacher outside of the PTM also if you can. Okay? And especially for a primary level child, it is important that the teacher is also comfortable, for the child. She should be approachable. She should not be somebody who's a child completely afraid of. Okay? So teachers become important. Then comes the role of exercise. Now we've seen that a lot of children are not actually exercising enough. By exercise, I do not mean that they have to go to gym or they have to actually play a specific sports. Depending on the child's ability. They should be physically active. Okay, what does physical activity mean? If your child is continuously shuttling between classes, tuitions, sitting in school, sitting in the tuition, where does the movement come? Okay, the body is not moving. And do you know the major reason why stress builds up in a body so fast? Because we are not active. Okay, so your child is getting stressed every 2-3 hours of continuous sitting. The child is actually getting stressed and he is not dissipating the stress, is not getting the chance to actually do any physical activity and energize himself. He is bound to get more and more stressed. Okay, physical activity then becomes very important. And then comes nutrition. Okay, we all talk about nutrition and these vitamins, minerals, and all these sophisticated things. There is no need to actually think at such a at such a fancy level, esoteric level. Regular diet, okay, घर का खाना बहुत अच्छा है बच्चों के लिए. Junk food not good. Junk food only once a month. Okay, घर का खाना कैसे भी हो और कैसे भी नहीं होता है, अच्छा ही होता है. Okay, so it's important that the child appreciates what is cooked at home. Okay, the efforts also go in cooking. Involve your child as a child is getting older. Involve your child in cooking. They can mix, they can whisk, they can beat up something, they can actually, make something, a paste or something. And it is important. Why? Because हम जो खाते हैं वो हमें बनते हैं. Okay, you know that. Because eating what we eat, what we become. So choose your food very wisely. You don't have to go for fancy fruits and all that. Regular fruits we do, regular vegetables we do, and रोज का खाना भी बहुत अच्छा लगता है. Okay, right. And then we come to play.
Yes.
Okay. And Anupama is here going to explain to you why play becomes so important for a child. She will even tell you 1 or 2 cases where actually the parents were completely unaware of the child's problems and how it was expressed through play. Okay. And if you learn the techniques correctly, you can play with your child, engage with your child, and maybe if there is a problem going on that the child is not able to express or talk about it, they'll be able to identify it. So over to you.
Yes, thank you. So as Sanyogita said, play is, I think, the best way to communicate with your child. Why do you think play is important? Play is important for the overall development of child, not only physically, not only socially, but also for his emotional development. As Sanyogita has mentioned, the kids go through a lot of emotions throughout the day. Just like us, they feel scared, they are anxious, they are happy, they are sad. And what do we do? Like, if you have a bad day at office, what do you do in the evening? You want to go home and you want to share those emotions with maybe your spouse, your best friend, or maybe, call your parent. And then you feel calm, you feel happy from inside, you are more in control. So kids also go through these emotions, but they may not have that verbal ability to express themselves. And so they express it through play. Now, I will just give you one small example. There was this 4-year-old who has come to our clinic, and he was a very shy child in the beginning, and then he started preschool, and then the mother started observing the changes in his behavior. So what she told us was, when he comes home from school, he becomes very, he's always angry, and he's back answering me, and he's very rude to me. And if I ask him, he doesn't reply, he doesn't say anything. So what is happening with my child? So in the play therapy room, when we observed his play, we saw that he was playing with only one set of animals, and in that, he used to put one animal in the middle, and there were other animals in the circle around that animal, and one by one they were attacking him. This happened once, twice, thrice. So we told the mother, please go to school, take teacher's permission, and please observe your child during recess. She did that, and it was, indeed there was a group of kids who were teasing this child, who were not very nice to him. And he is being a very quiet child, he didn't know how to respond, he didn't know what to do at that point, so he used to keep quiet. But after coming home, he used to take out that anger on the mother. And in the play therapy room, when the opportunity was given, then all his anger, expression, his experience came out through play. So that's where play becomes very important. It's child's language. It's like, the toys are very, very symbolic.
Yeah.
So like when we ask the parents, like, does your child play? Most of the time they say, yes, my kid plays every day. Like, on Mondays and Wednesdays, I take him to karate. Then other 2 days, I put him in swimming, and then he goes for basketball. So, of course, this is important. I'm not saying no, but this is what we say. It's a structured play where, the child is always asked to follow certain rules and regulations. Not much freedom is there for the child. And what we require for the healthy development of the child is unstructured play, what is we call free play. Where, the child is allowed to do anything, whatever he wants to, whichever way he wants to, at least for some time during the day. At the same time, what we feel is the parental involvement in child's play is also very, very important.
That's very important.
Yes. And as Sanyogita has said, that like, in today's world, we see there is a lot of emotional disconnect between the parent and the child.
That's right.
Yeah, because parents, like, they fail to understand what the child is going through. So the advantage when the parent is start playing with the child, the advantages are the parent starts seeing the child in a different way. Like, mainly today in the competitive world, we are always comparing our child. Consciously, unconsciously, like, it's always there, like, oh, my neighbor's kid, he knows like A to Z. But my kid, he knows only from A to P, maybe. So, but when you start playing with your child, you will realize that maybe my child knows only from A to P, but he's so creative. He's been playing with this clay and he's creating so many things from the clay. So maybe he's very artistic. So you start seeing the positive side in your child. And child, on the other hand, of course, he's very happy because here is a father or mother who is, always very strict and always telling him what to do, what not to do, always criticizing him, is actually playing with him and, like, sharing whatever he is doing, actually laughing and joking with him. So the child is very happy from inside and he feels very open. And this helps as the child grows up. Because once this relationship strengthens, then whenever the child has problem in future, he will come back to you. He will feel very open to talk to you because he feels very close to you. So that's where the unstructured play with your child becomes very, very important. So, but again, many parents don't know how to play with the child.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we have examples. We have seen parents who turn the play activity into totally educational activity. Like we have seen mothers, like when a child wants to play with a ball, the mother will go with, tell me what size the ball is. Is it a big ball or a small ball? Which color is this? Is it like, is it a red one? Is it a blue one? So many questions are asked to the child that the child loses interest in play. And I'm sure he's very frustrated from inside, and I'm sure he doesn't want to play with the mother again. So what we feel is there should be time during the week where you let the child play whatever he wants to. You just go and take a second lead and share his imagination, share his world. Let him do whatever he wants to, and that will make a huge difference in your relationship, and it will strengthen the relationship. So play is just not important for the individual growth of the child, but it's also important for bonding between the parent and the child. So I think, and once we start playing, it's the best preventive method to prevent any kind of emotional or behavioral problems that may occur in the child in future life. Thank you.
Great. Okay. So I think now we'll be taking questions. So if you want to ask us any questions, you're welcome to. Please give us a feedback also.
Yes.
And if you want more information, we'll be doing more sessions like these on specific topics, for primary children, children between 0 and 5, adolescents, parenting itself.
Yes.
right? Working mothers. So lots of topics are going to come up.
So, when are we going to see the comments which are coming?
So yeah.
Comments will show it.
I don't think we are actually able to see the comments, so sorry about that.
So, the one question which we got is how much time should parents spend with their kids?
Right. Okay. So somebody has asked how much time the parent needs to spend with the child daily. Like it has already been mentioned, it's quality time and not just a quantity. Okay. So even 15 minutes daily is more than enough, provided what you do within that actually 15 minutes is something that the child likes. Okay. And that time has to be completely for the child. How many parents can give the time completely to the child? The mother will be rushing somewhere to the kitchen or to attend to some of the errands. The father will be actually continuously engaged to the mobile or the laptop. Even 15 minutes, actually see it. Even 15 minutes by clock is not possible for us to give it, like we say, the undivided attention has to be given to the child. If you do that, and within that time itself, you will see that the child starts blooming. Okay? You
I
don't have
think it
to
also
yes.
depends on
Yeah.
the way of communication, like what you are doing during those 15 minutes. Like it shouldn't spend on asking the child about the school and the results and the exams.
Right.
It can be anything like, you share your experiences, what you did during the day. And then you ask child, like, what happened with the friend. Something very informal. What
It has to be more descriptive rather than a question answer style.
Yes.
Yeah.
And encourage the child to express.
Allow to
Yes.
talk. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
There's one more question has come up. Someone has asked if you are a single parent, a single mother or a single father. How does that play a role in a child's life?
Right. I think being a single parent is very difficult. I know it's hardship, right? And sometimes you have become a single parent because of lots of difficulties also earlier. So you are coping with all your emotions, your stress, and your different status, new status also in the society. And in fact, I know it's very difficult. But at the same time, I would say that children of single parents don't necessarily turn out to be, somebody of a problem. Okay? Provided the mother or the father actually understands the child what they are also going through. A lot of times, what happens, the parent is so engaged in their own, problem that the child is completely neglected, rejected, and only the financial aspects or only the so-called material aspects of their care are being taken care of. Like I earn and I get so much and I pay for the school and there is somebody at home and there is some, shelter and food. But that is not all. Children of such parents actually who have become single, they have experienced a lot of trauma initially also. Okay? And they are continuing to go through that psychological trauma. So that needs to be addressed carefully. You have to talk to the child also to let them express the feelings about what they feel, about the absence of that other parent, whether it is a mother or a father. Okay? And a lot of times what happens, let's not talk about it. नहीं ऐसे समझो या कभी कभी ऐसे होता है, and we try to show it under the carpet because we feel that how will we handle such a strenuous topic. But that's exactly the topic that you need to talk to your child. Okay? And children are more resilient than you think. They can adjust provided they are given the opportunity. Right? So just being a single parent doesn't mean that you cannot give to your child, but you have to also understand your child. Provided you are doing that, it will be fine.
So,
Yeah.
one question is, as a parent, how do I strike a balance between pampering a child and disciplining?
Yeah. So, like I said, there are three kinds of parenting styles. Obviously, pampering belongs to the permissive style where you are giving everything to the child. You want to discipline the child also, which means you are showing the limits and boundaries. Um, so, you don't have to pamper a child. You are pampering a child the moment you start giving children the things that without asking, okay, without asking. The child doesn't ask for it, but just because I feel I need to give to the child. Secondly, when you are giving more expensive things than what is necessary, and when you are giving things that are not really necessary also, okay. So putting a smartphone in a 9 or 10 years old hand when they are really not asked for it, or giving a better phone when they could have done with something much more basic. So that would actually come under pampering. Giving time, affection, lot of your personal time is never pampering. It's never pampering. Children do not get spoiled because of that. Children get spoiled because of materialistic things. So you have to steer clear of the material aspects of what you are giving to the children. That is real pampering. Show them the value of money. Okay? And not understanding the value of money creates problems later on. Because what happens is that ये तो मुझे ऐसे भी मिलता है वैसे भी मिलता है, so why do I need to actually strive for it? And most of us get motivated because of extrinsic things. That means there is something out there which motivates us. And children also are not exception to the rule. So they will be also wanting something. There has to be some desire left, and it is okay to have desires. All desires may not get fulfilled by the time you are 20 only. Okay. It's okay to have desires even later because that keeps us pushing ourselves to achieve something. Okay? And disciplining does not mean very harsh discipline. Most of the parents actually yo-yo between pampering and disciplining. They go to the extremes of discipline, and this also happens according to the mood sometimes. That I'm in no mood to listen to you, so I will be very harsh to you, criticize you. Then I will end up punishing you more than is necessary. Anything that is more than necessary becomes extreme disciplining or extreme pampering. So you know what is the right amount of punishment for that particular behavior, okay, and right amount of say reward for that particular behavior also. This is rational and logic. Okay, as long as you are logical about your disciplining and rewarding and punishment, naturally you will strike a balance between disciplining and pampering. It will not happen. Either the extremes will not happen. Okay.
There's a question for Anupama.
Yeah.
How to get rid of the constant boredom children have, no matter what different things they are suggested to?
Exactly. So that's it. We were talking about unstructured play. Like here, like you mentioned, like you suggest when the child is bored. So I don't think that should be done. Actually, what we say is let your child get bored. Because when he is bored, then he will be more creative. He won't look for answers from a parent. He knows he has to spend his time, so he will find out, okay, maybe I will read, maybe I will do arts, maybe I will do something else. So let your child get bored. You don't have to give him any suggestions. Okay.
And again, being bored is actually good.
It's a good thing.
Yeah, it's a good thing. It's only now we think that getting bored is something of a problem. It is not.
Yes, I know. Actually, the parent feel guilty when the child says that I'm bored.
And they feel to do something
about it. They feel it's their responsibility. 24/7, they have to be entertained.
They don't have to be. Parents do not have to be entertainers for the child.
Absolutely not.
All that they need to understand is that the child can also entertain themselves, and that is also important.
That is very important.
We all develop hobbies because of boredom.
Because of it.
If we never got bored, we would never have a hobby also.
Yes.
Isn't it? We would all just be
like child decide that.
Exactly.
What decide that.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a question.
Mm-hmm.
So the parent says, what is the right age to talk to children about safe touch and unsafe touch? I don't want to expose my child to these things at an inappropriate age.
Sure. Yeah.
I think it's a very important question.
Yeah. We do workshops for very young children also. Children like between 4 and 6, before they even enter the mainstream school. And those are about good touch and bad touch. And the thing is that the earlier children know about what is good touch, what is appropriate and inappropriate touch, the better it is. Right? Why? Because there are crimes being committed even against very young children. And if the child doesn't know, it is very likely that the crime will go missed, or somebody is actually abusing a child and you never come to know because the child never thought it was wrong. Because it was done by somebody in the authority position. An adult doing something, the child doesn't tend to believe, especially a young child doesn't tend to believe that it is wrong. They tend to believe that adults are always right.
Especially if they're from the family, right?
Right, yes, because in our society we tell them to respect adults, but don't we actually, is a
correct.
So then it becomes more tedious, actually more important to explain these things to the child. And how do we do it? I think Anupama knows.
Yeah, we do it actually through a puppet. Like we show the child which are the there are 3 areas on the body where nobody should touch except your mother and father. So even with the doctor, the mother should be present there. So we can tell this to a child in a very friendly manner. It doesn't have to be very scientific.
So you can have dolls, you can have even cutouts, and in those cutouts there are actually areas which are marked, and those areas we say nobody should touch it over there. If anybody is doing that, then it is wrong. Okay, so that is
then
good
exactly. And then what they should do.
So you can start from as early as even 4, 3.5, 4, and then you can go up, and depending on the child's age and maturity, you can actually get more information. Like we do proper sex education workshops for adolescents. Okay.
The parent is asking, my child does not talk much at home, but he is very expressive with his friends. How do I make him share at home?
Yes. Yes. So it shows that your child is expressive. He's expressing his emotions with friends outside. So I think he needs to have that freedom at home, like whatever he's feeling, he should have the freedom to express. And we just talked about unstructured play. And I think you should get involved in playing with the child more and have that bonding with him, and he will start expressing at home too.
What would you suggest for handling tantrums of children?
How old is your child? If the child is very young and throwing tantrums, remember this is part of the development also. The children between 2 and 4 are going to throw tantrums, and most of the children will actually go out of these tantrums by the time they are 4 or 5. Only the tantrums are very severe, very frequent, you do something about it. Otherwise, just it is part of development and the child will actually eventually come out of it. If the tantrums are becoming a serious problem, then basically you have to learn to ignore the tantrums. Also try and understand why the child is throwing the tantrums. Is it because they are not getting, once again, the communication like I said? Is the child not able to express what they want or their feelings correctly? In that case, you have to give them the spatial playtime, be with them, etc. Secondly, the tantrums may be happening because the child is too tired, too frustrated, or the parents are making too many demands on the child, and demands that are not age appropriate. Sometimes we want a 1.5-year-old child to sit quietly for 1 hour. 30 minutes is also impossible. That is developmentally also not correct. Okay? So what happens? These children, they cannot stay still like that. मेरा बच्चा वो देखो 2 साल का है लेकिन कैसे बैठता है children are different. Okay? So you have to understand this also. So normal child development you have to understand. Secondly, why these tantrums are happening, you need to understand. And if the tantrums are happening for other reasons and the child is only getting into this kind of a behavior issue because at the end of the tantrum he is getting what he wants or she is getting what she wants, then that is the reward. So the child is working for that outcome. Okay? So if the outcome is not there, the child will stop working for it, which means they will stop throwing a tantrum. Okay? So don't give them a reward. Most of the times we themselves actually give into the tantrum. And this is classically how the tantrum gets what we call as reinforced, which means it gets stronger. The child becomes even more eager to do it because it is getting him something. Okay? So don't give the reward, don't give the attention, and make sure that you stay calm throughout the tantrum. Very difficult, I know, but you can actually master that technique, how to stay calm, and the child immediately will understand, she's not going to do it to me, so might as well stop it. So eventually he will see, initially the child will do even more because, it is upping the ante. Exactly, testing the parent, upping the ante, we call it. But later on, it is bound to actually go down. Okay?
Does technological exposure have an impact on my child's mental health? If yes, is there a way to that?
Yeah. Technology per se is not bad, but like we say, being bound to your shackle, to your mobile phone, laptop, definitely is bad. And why is it bad? Mainly two things. One, they cannot actually understand the human skills. They do not know how to deal with human beings. So no sharing, no communication, compromises, nothing is there. So they are losing touch with the reality. Okay? And they are getting more into that imaginary world. So that is, of course, very damaging to anybody's mental health. Even if I start doing that, sitting on this laptop for so many hours of the day, doing only this, and no interaction with the outside world, obviously it is going to damage my mental health. So that is one way how it damages. Secondly, the addiction that develops, the dependence on such things. Okay, and I have to have it. So they almost get withdrawal. What we call as they cannot stay without it. And thirdly, the physical inactivity, because when you are on these gadgets, you are not running, you are not playing sports, okay? You are not doing anything active. The very fact that you are on a gadget means you have become passive. The mind is active, but your body is passive. So that again, the child is not able to take the stress out or the physical energy out effectively. So that again has a damaging effect on the child's mental health. Yes. So limit your time. If the child is around 4 or 5, not more than 20 minutes, and as the child gets older, not more than half an hour, 40 minutes, including all screen time, which means TV, internet, other video games, laptops, mobile, everything. Alright? This is the total time that is recommended, actually, to avoid any serious problems.
This is from a parent of a 5-year-old. Yeah. He writes, my child wants to play with me, but I don't know how to play.
Yes. So actually, we really don't have to know. We don't really have to learn how to play with your child. What I would suggest is just go with your child. Just do whatever he wants you to do. Like suppose he wants you to play with cars or with animals. Just go down to his level and do whatever he tells you. He will only teach you how to play with him. So don't worry. Be very, very natural.
Yeah. And the more natural you are, the more free you become.
Yes.
The child also perceives my parent is not just a stiff figure out there, only doing things. I'm seeing a mother in a different role. Yeah. Like you have a child the other day.
Yes. Yes.
What did she say?
So we have something called like a filial therapy at our center. So when we help the bonding between the parent and the child. And just 2 days back, we had a session with the mother and the child. And the child actually told the mother that, when you come inside the play therapy room, you are like a Saraswati to me. But when we go out, then you are a Durga. So see the difference? I mean, even the child can perceive this difference.
Yes, that's right.
So just be very normal, be very natural, and don't turn this play activity into educational activity.
Yeah, that's true.
The parent is asking, so these days children don't have time to play outside. So can you suggest something that a 6-year-old can do?
So physical activity, I think, is important. So if a child cannot go outside, at home you can provide lots of other, what we call as sensory stimulation, which means there is trampoline. Okay, there are trampolines. We have kept a trampoline in our center, so that means it can be kept inside a house also. Then a swing, all right, that is possible. You can take them to a park, where they have got better swings and those slides and all those, those activities are important. For a 6-year-old, I think that should be sufficient. But there are plenty of other activities like hop, skip and jump. And even kind of, where there is a mat and all the numbers are written and we have got a snakes and ladders kind of a mat. And the child can actually jump and enjoy at the same time. So a lot of jumping, hopping, skipping with a skipping rope, And those kind of activities will be sufficient. You don't have to go out and play if it is not possible. But activity itself is important. And I think that's the end of the session, and thank you very much. And we will keep you posted. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Yeah.